Hi folks, this video is just going to be, it's going to help out with those of you that are struggling with exponent laws. And so I'm going to go through 6 questions, and I'm assuming that you've already watched the other exponent laws video. So the ones on negative exponents as well as the ones that it's just called the exponent laws videos. So anyway, if you've watched those and you're still struggling, you can go through these 6 questions with me. Okay? So let's do that. I'm going to pull out a red pen here. We're going to go through the first question, okay? And here's the 6 questions right here in case you want to skip ahead if there's a particular one that you're stuck on. Okay, starting with this one. If you recall the other exponents video, if the base is the same, and we have 2/5 and we have 2/5, if the base is the same, then the rule is all you have to do is add those exponents, okay? By the way, this multiplication symbol doesn't need to be there. It can just be a dot, or it could be nothing at all. Whenever you see brackets, that also assumes that we're talking about multiplication, okay? So, we have 2/5, and remember, all we have to do, because the base is the same, all we have to do is add these exponents. So it's like saying -6 plus, and that's a -3. It's like saying -6 plus -3. So the final answer is going to be whatever -6 plus -3 is, which is -9. In this question, and in most questions, they don't want you to leave your answer with a negative exponent. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that idea that we talked about in the other video called shower power. So that means the -9 is going to go to meet the 2, and it's also going to go to meet the 5. So it's going to look like this. Alright, we're still not quite done because we still have negative exponents. And if you still remember this from the other video, to make a negative exponent positive, you're going to have to move it either from the numerator to the denominator or the denominator to the numerator. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take this 5 to the -9 and bring it up to the top to make it 5 to the power of 9. And this one is going to go down to the bottom. And technically this is simplified now, maybe just the way that they wanted you to do. It doesn't hurt to actually say what is 5 to the power of 9 and 2 to the power of 9. And let's see, if I was to use my calculator, I'm not going to do that on here. You could do that if you wanted to. You would get this really long number. I don't even know if I can fit it on this screen. There it is. And that is over top of 512. So this answer here would be fine if it just said to simplify. Personally, I'd be okay with you just stopping right there. But some teachers may want you to go one step further and actually write out what is 5 to the power of 9 and 2 to the power of 9. Alright? And that's also a good answer. Alright, let's go to the next question. Okay, you're already an expert. You know that x just means multiply. And we have the same base here. So what we're going to do is add the exponents. So it's -2 plus -3. -2 plus -3. So we're going to get -21 to the power of -5. And if you wanted to multiply that out, well, first of all, before we multiply it out, there's a negative exponent. We cannot leave the answer with a negative exponent. It's a no-no, okay? So to make it positive, remember, all we have to do is put it down below into the denominator. The -21 still is -21. That sign in front here does not change by bringing it down here, okay? Some people make that mistake. However, this 5, this -5, becomes a positive 5. Technically, this is now simplified with a positive exponent, but again, some teachers may want you to write it out exactly what -21 to the power of 5 is, and here's our lucky number. If you were to multiply this and do this on a calculator, you would get this number, I believe. Alright, so that's that question. Let's keep moving. Here we have this question. We have an exponent, and then we have another exponent. If you recall that video from before, when you have an exponent and then another exponent, sometimes they call that the power of a power. You have to multiply these two. You don't add them. You multiply these two exponents. All right? So negative 3 multiplied by 6 is negative 18. We cannot leave our answer as a negative in the exponent. So what we're going to do is move this down to the bottom. So we're going to put a 1 there and move this down to the bottom, to the denominator. And that is as far as we can go. We cannot take m to the power of 18 and do anything with that on a calculator. Okay? Let's keep moving. Here's this question. All right. So with a question like this, we have to remember that that 2, again, you can call this shower power if you like. That 2 is going to go to meet everybody inside the brackets. The 2 is going to go to meet this 3, then the a, the b squared, and the c. Okay? It's going to go to meet everybody. So I'll write it out just to make it a little bit clearer. So 3 squared, the 2 is going to meet the a. Now b squared with another 2, remember that's a power, or an exponent, and another exponent. So you multiply them, and that's how we get b to the power of 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Also, c will also have that. The 2 will go to meet the c, and this answer is almost done. Just 3 squared. It's good to just show what 3 squared is. Why not? But write everything else out just like we did already. And we are done that question. Okay? Let's move along here. Okay, once again, shower power. So this negative 2 is an exponent, and this is an exponent. So we can multiply these two exponents together. Same with this one down here. Okay? So 2 times 2, and they're both negative. That would make 4. And this is a to the power of 4. By the way, there's 2 different ways of looking at this. The same thing divided by the exact same thing. So something divided by the exact same thing. You're always going to get 1 as your answer. But there's another way to look at this. When you divide, like a to the power of 4 divided by a to the power of 4, from the video on what to do when you divide with exponents, what you're going to do is actually subtract these exponents. So it's like saying a to the power of 4 minus that other 4. Well, that equals 0. And a to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So really this answer up here was probably all we needed, but I just wanted to quickly show you that anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1 as well. Okay, let's move on. Here is a tougher looking question. There's different ways to go about doing this. So what I usually like to do is just get everything on the top figured out, then everything on the bottom figured out, and then deal with the top and the bottom. So if that's okay with you, let's do that. Start by looking at this bracket right here. Notice that there's an exponent of 2 here. That 2 has to go and meet everybody inside here. Okay? The next bracket over here does not have a number on the outside. That means there's an invisible 1 there. So that bracket, we don't have to really do anything with that bracket. However, we do have to do something with this bracket. So let's figure that out first. We'd have 7 squared. By the way, 7 squared is 49. I skipped a step. I didn't show what I did there. So 7 to the power of 2 is 49. M to the power of 2, and then another power of 2. Remember, you multiply those exponents, so it's m to the power of 4. Over here we have a negative 5 and a 2. So it's going to be n to the power of, multiply them, negative 10. Alright? And that's what we have now. In the other bracket, I'm just going to rewrite what we had. This question's longer than the other ones. And on the bottom, we still have 3mn. This is the part where you fall asleep while I rewrite all of this crazy stuff here. There we go. Okay, back to work. Now, 49, I'm going to just deal with the top here. It's just one way of doing it. There are quicker and other quick shortcuts, but I'm just going to deal with what's on top. So 49 times 3. 49 times 3. Let's see, I believe that's, and it's a negative 3, so it's going to be negative. Well, 50 times 3 is 150. So 149, 147. 147. Negative 147 when you multiply those two together. Now let's multiply m to the fourth times m to the fourth. The rule is you add these two exponents right here and right here. You add them. And that's why we get m to the eighth. We have negative 10 here, and over here we have n to the power of 8. Add those two, and you're going to get n to the power of negative 2. Negative 10 plus 8 is negative 2. Alright, that's what's on top. Let's see what's on bottom. We have a 3, and over here we have a negative sign. So we can assume there's like a negative 1 here. It's invisible. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Now we have an m. Invisible 1 here. So 1 plus this negative 2 is m to the negative 1. And n has an invisible 1. So 1 plus negative 4 is negative 3. And then all we have to do is take the top and divide by the bottom. So what we're going to do is take negative 147 divided by negative 3. And that would get us back to, surprise, surprise, the 49 that we had before. So that divided by that is 49. M to the 8th divided by m to the negative 1. Remember, you subtract 8 minus negative 1 because we're dividing. Remember, 8 minus negative 1, I'll write it over here. 8 minus negative 1 is like saying 8 plus 1, which is 9. So m to the power of 9. And over here we have negative 2 minus negative 3. That's like saying negative 2 plus 3. Okay? So that's n to the power of, well, 1, which is really invisible. So this is our final answer, and we are done. Okay? If this video went too quick, I recommend going a little slower, rewinding, and asking questions if you're confused. Okay, good luck, folks.